Imagine waking up tomorrow and the home you've lived in for years is suddenly declared unsafe, and you're forced out overnight. In Florida, this nightmare has just become a reality for over 5,200 families. Welcome to the shocking collapse of the Florida condo market. Last week, Florida woke up to a shocking reality. Reports started surfacing from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Tampa. Luxury condos that were once worth over $450,000 suddenly declared unsafe. Authorities cited severe structural cracks, unstable foundations, and risks of flooding. By Tuesday morning, over 5,200 families received emergency eviction notices, some with barely 48 hours to leave. Panic spread through neighborhoods as residents frantically packed belongings, unsure if they'd ever return. Maria Hernandez, a Miami Beach resident, described the chaos. "I've lived here for 12 years. I've raised my kids here, and now I'm being forced out overnight. I don't even know where to go." Banks acted quickly, freezing mortgages and halting property transactions. Investors, once confident in Florida real estate, were blindsided. $1.2 billion in condo assets suddenly became frozen, leaving homeowners, renters, and lenders in limbo. Engineers continue to inspect the buildings, but the scale of the crisis is staggering. Experts warn that similar structural issues could affect thousands more condos along Florida's coastline, creating a crisis unlike anything the state has seen in decades. Every day, new families discover they might be next. Shelters are filling up, hotels are booked to capacity, and some residents are forced to sleep in their cars. Social media is flooded with desperate pleas. "Please, anyone, help us find a place to stay." Florida's condo collapse isn't just a financial disaster. It's a human tragedy unfolding in real time, and the full scope is only beginning to emerge. The collapse of Florida's condo market didn't just shake families, it sent shockwaves through banks, investors, and the entire real estate ecosystem. Mortgage lenders are facing unprecedented pressure. Hundreds of properties were suddenly frozen, leaving millions of dollars in unpaid loans hanging in the balance. Foreclosures are skyrocketing, and some banks have even temporarily halted new mortgage approvals to prevent further exposure. James Whitmore, a real estate investor in South Florida, owns over 30 condo units. He described the nightmare. "I've never seen anything like this. Overnight, my portfolio lost nearly $18 million. I don't know how to recover." Real estate agents report widespread panic. Listings are being pulled off the market as potential buyers worry that their dream home could be next. Analysts warn that if the crisis spreads, Florida's housing market could plunge by 30% in just the next quarter. That would erase over $50 billion in property value statewide, devastating both homeowners and investors. The ripple effects don't stop there. Construction companies with ongoing projects are seeing delays as inspectors tighten safety protocols. Insurance companies are bracing for a flood of claims, some already reporting triple the usual number of requests in just 1 week. Even luxury condos aren't safe. Buildings previously considered premium are now under scrutiny, and speculative investors are rushing to liquidate their holdings. Entire neighborhoods are at risk of becoming ghost communities, with empty units and abandoned properties multiplying. The financial domino effect is clear. One unstable building triggers a chain reaction. As property values collapse, banks tighten lending, homeowners panic, and investors pull out. Florida could be staring down a statewide real estate crisis unlike anything in its modern history. For residents, this is more than numbers. It's a direct threat to their livelihoods. Families wonder if they'll lose their homes, their savings, and their sense of security. And for investors, every decision feels like a gamble with millions on the line. The question now isn't if the crisis will continue, but how far it will go. While the numbers are staggering, the true impact of Florida's condo collapse is felt in the lives of the people affected. Families are being uprooted overnight, students are struggling to continue school, and elderly residents face uncertainty and fear. Take the story of Daniel and Lisa Carter, a retired couple from Tampa. Their condo was deemed unsafe on Monday night. With just 36 hours to leave, they were forced to pack their entire life into a single car. "We've lived here for 25 years, Daniel said, voice trembling, "and now we have nowhere to go. Sleeping in our car, it feels surreal." In Fort Lauderdale, a single mother of two, Jessica Morales, had to leave her children with relatives after she couldn't find temporary housing. "I feel like I failed them," she whispered. Hotels are overbooked, shelters are full, and many families are left to fend for themselves on the streets. Schools are seeing rising absenteeism as children struggle with housing instability. Local hospitals report spikes in anxiety, depression, and stress-related illnesses. Social workers described scenes of chaos, with parents begging for help and volunteers scrambling to provide aid. Some communities have started informal support networks. Neighbors are opening their homes, sharing what little resources they have, and trying to create a sense of stability amid the chaos. Yet, for every story of help, there are dozens of families facing despair. The human toll is enormous. Over 5,200 families evicted in just 1 week. Thousands of children disrupted from their schools. Elderly residents forced into temporary shelters or vehicles. Local charities overwhelmed, unable to keep up with demand. This crisis isn't just about damaged buildings or frozen assets. It's about people losing their homes, their security, and their sense of normalcy. Every family affected represents a story of fear, uncertainty, and heartbreak. Florida's condo collapse has exposed a harsh truth. Real estate disasters aren't just financial, they are profoundly human. And as the crisis spreads, more lives will be affected unless urgent action is taken. As Florida's condo crisis spirals, government officials are scrambling to contain the chaos. Emergency task forces have been deployed across Miami, Tampa, and Fort Lauderdale to inspect the thousands of at-risk buildings, but the scale of the problem is staggering. Governor officials announced that over 8,000 structures statewide are under urgent review. Inspectors are working around the clock, but with limited resources and an overwhelming backlog, delays are inevitable. Residents are frustrated, anxious, and scared. The state has rushed legislation through to temporarily freeze condo foreclosures and provide emergency housing funds. Yet critics argue these measures may be too little, too late. One local council member warned, "We can throw money at this problem, but if buildings continue to fail, families will keep losing their homes." Emergency shelters have been set up, but they're overflowing. Hotels in affected cities are fully booked, leaving thousands of families scrambling for any place to stay. Social services report that over 12,000 people may require temporary housing in the next few weeks alone. Banks and mortgage lenders are under pressure from the government to provide relief. Some have begun offering payment deferrals, while others freeze pending foreclosures. But financial experts caution that these short-term fixes may not prevent a long-term economic disaster. Meanwhile, the public is demanding answers. Protests have erupted in several cities, with residents calling for accountability from developers, local authorities, and inspectors. Tensions are rising, and officials admit the situation could escalate further if structural failures continue. The government's response is a race against time. Every day that passes without a solution increases the risk of more families being displaced, more financial losses mounting, and more panic spreading across the state. Florida is at a critical crossroads. Will the authorities act fast enough to prevent total disaster, or is the condo crisis just beginning? As Florida struggles to respond, a pressing question looms. What caused this sudden condo collapse? Investigations suggest a combination of factors. Rising sea levels, poor construction practices, and decades of deferred maintenance have all weakened foundations along the coast. Buildings once considered secure are now deemed dangerously unstable. Some experts point to corporate greed and cost-cutting measures. Developers reportedly used substandard materials to save money, leaving hundreds of condos vulnerable. Anonymous whistleblowers claim that internal reports warned of structural failures years ago, but these warnings were ignored in favor of profit. Rumors swirl of secret inspections that were falsified or overlooked. Residents whisper that certain luxury condos were never properly certified for safety, yet banks and investors continued to pour millions into these properties. One shocking claim alleges that some building managers ignored repeated warnings about cracks and water damage, hoping that disasters wouldn't happen on their watch. Now their negligence has left thousands of families facing eviction. The mysterious trigger isn't just technical, it's political and financial. Questions arise. Were inspectors pressured to overlook issues? Did developers knowingly risk safety for profit? Could this crisis have been prevented entirely? For the residents caught in the middle, answers are scarce. All they know is uncertainty, fear, and the possibility that their building could be next. As investigations continue, Florida faces a chilling reality. The condo collapse may not be an accident, but a consequence of years of ignored warnings, greed, and systemic failure. The Florida condo crisis shows no signs of slowing, and experts warn that the worst may still be ahead. If the collapse continues at the current pace, the consequences could be catastrophic. Analysts estimate that by the end of the year, over 10,000 families could be displaced, with thousands more living in temporary shelters or vehicles. Property values could drop by $3 billion statewide, leaving homeowners and investors scrambling to salvage what little remains. Cities like Miami, Tampa, and Fort Lauderdale face cascading effects. Rental prices could skyrocket as housing becomes scarce, and neighborhoods may see ghost buildings as abandoned condos sit empty. Banks and lenders might tighten credit even further, making it nearly impossible for residents to buy or rent new homes. Local governments warn of growing social unrest. Shelters are already overwhelmed, and charities report that demand for emergency aid has tripled in the last week. Panic is spreading, and families are making desperate choices, sometimes paying exorbitant rates just to secure a temporary room. Economists caution that the domino effect could extend beyond Florida. Investors may pull out entirely, affecting the national real estate market. Insurance companies could face record-breaking claims, forcing them to raise premiums or reduce coverage, leaving more residents unprotected. The human toll continues to rise alongside the financial impact. Children are being uprooted from schools, elderly residents face displacement, and families struggle with anxiety, stress, and uncertainty. For now, residents live in fear. Every day brings news of another building deemed unsafe, another family forced out, and another layer of panic added to an already tense situation. Florida's condo collapse is no longer just a local crisis. It is a statewide emergency with global attention, a stark warning of what can happen when warning signs are ignored for too long. The question that looms over the state is chilling. How many more homes will fail before the crisis finally ends? The Florida condo crisis is more than a financial disaster. It is a human tragedy unfolding in real time. Families who once felt safe in their homes are now living with uncertainty, fear, and heartbreak. Children are being uprooted from schools, parents are forced to make impossible choices, and elderly residents face displacement with nowhere to turn. Hotels are full, shelters are overwhelmed, and streets are increasingly lined with desperate families seeking refuge. Investors and banks may see the numbers, but the real story is in the lives disrupted. And as Florida faces this unprecedented crisis, one truth remains. The nightmare is far from over, and the clock is ticking. If you live in Florida, don't wait for the warning signs to hit home, because for some, it may already be too late.